The crystal chamber stretched up into darkness above Lisa Grant's head. She stood on the small platform reserved for humanity, looking up at creatures that came from worlds she had never seen. The Galactic Council chamber was bigger than any building on Earth. 47 different alien species sat in rows that curved around the central floor like an enormous bowl. Lisa wore her best diplomatic uniform. The dark blue fabric felt heavy on her shoulders. She had spent 3 years learning the languages and customs of these aliens, 3 years preparing for moments like this. But nothing had prepared her for the hatred she saw in their eyes today. The Zephyrian High Chancellor rose from his seat. He was 12 feet tall with 4 arms and a head that looked like a giant insect. His compound eyes glowed red in the chamber's light. When he spoke, his voice came through the translation device as cold and sharp as breaking glass. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding the human problem," the Chancellor said. His mandibles clicked together between words. "Your species has violated the sacred boundaries of civilized space. You have colonized systems without permission. You have refused to submit to our authority. You have shown disrespect for laws that have kept peace in this galaxy for 10,000 years. Lisa felt her heart beating faster. She had expected accusations, but not like this. Every human colony had followed the maps the Council gave them. Every settlement had been built in systems the aliens said were empty and worthless. How could following their own rules be called a violation? "The charges against humanity are clear," the Chancellor continued. "Unauthorized expansion, refusal to accept Council oversight, building military vessels without permits. These crimes demand punishment." A creature that looked like a walking crystal spoke next. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "The human ships are crude but numerous. They spread like a disease through space. Soon they will threaten peaceful worlds. If we do nothing." Lisa wanted to shout that it was not true. Human ships were explorers and cargo haulers. They carried scientists and families to new worlds. They brought supplies to colonies struggling to survive on harsh planets. But she stayed quiet. Diplomats did not shout, even when lies were being told about their people. A snake-like alien with 6 arms raised itself up to speak. "Humans breed too fast. They consume too much. On their homeworld, they poisoned their own air and water. Now they want to do the same to other worlds. We must stop them before it is too late." More aliens spoke. Each one added new accusations. Humans were violent. Humans were greedy. Humans could not be trusted. Humans did not deserve to exist beyond their own solar system. The words hit Lisa like physical blows. She gripped the rail of her platform to keep her hands from shaking. Finally, the Chancellor stood again. The chamber fell silent. Even the air recyclers seemed to stop humming. "The Galactic Council offers humanity one chance to avoid total destruction," he said. "You will abandon all colonies outside your birth system. You will surrender your military vessels to Council forces. You will accept permanent observers on all human worlds. You will submit to population controls to prevent further expansion. You have 30 standard days to comply." The chamber erupted in alien sounds. Some species hooted with approval. Others made grinding noises that might have been laughter. A few remained silent, but Lisa could see satisfaction in their postures. "If humanity refuses these generous terms," the Chancellor said when the noise died down, "the combined fleets of the Galactic Council will remove the human threat from this galaxy, permanently." Now it was Lisa's turn to speak. She stepped forward to the edge of her platform. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber's speakers. "I have listened to your charges," she said. "I have heard your ultimatum. Now you will hear humanity's response." The aliens fell quiet again. Some leaned forward in their seats. Others exchanged glances that needed no translation. "Every accusation you have made is false," Lisa continued. "Humanity has followed every rule given to us. We have built colonies only in systems you marked as empty. We have kept our military. Ships in areas you said were ours to control. We have honored every treaty and respected every boundary." She paused and looked around the chamber. Hundreds of alien eyes stared back at her. "But your real complaint is not about rules or boundaries. Your problem is that we exist at all. You fear us because we are different. You hate us because we succeed where you expected us to fail. You want us gone because we remind you that your old ways are not the only ways." The snake alien hissed loudly, the crystal being flashed with angry light, but Lisa kept talking. "Humanity rejects your ultimatum. We reject your false charges. We will not abandon our colonies or surrender our ships. We will not accept your observers or your population controls. We are a free species, and we will remain free." The Chancellor's eyes glowed brighter. "Then you choose war, human. You choose extinction for your entire species. If you want war, you will have it," Lisa said. "But you will find that humanity is not as easy to destroy as you believe. We have survived ice ages and plagues on our home world. We have built cities on airless moons and in the depths of space. We have turned deserts into gardens and poisoned skies into breathable air. If you think we will simply roll over and die, you do not know humans very well." The chamber exploded with noise again. Aliens screeched and roared and made sounds that hurt Lisa's ears, but she stood straight and did not move from her platform. The Chancellor raised all four of his arms for silence. "Your arrogance will be remembered as the final mistake of the human species. In 30 days, our fleets will come. Your worlds will burn. Your ships will be destroyed. Your people will be scattered to the void. The galaxy will forget that humans ever existed." "We will see," Lisa said quietly. The session ended with formal words about war declarations and military preparations, but Lisa barely heard them. She was already thinking about the message she had to send to Earth. President Jake Morrison and his advisors needed to know what was coming. The human colonies needed time to prepare. The military needed to mobilize. As she left the chamber, Lisa passed groups of alien diplomats talking in excited clusters. They seemed pleased with what had happened. Some were already making plans for dividing up human territory after the war. Others discussed which human worlds had the best resources to exploit. None of them seemed worried about actually fighting humans. They talked about the coming war like it was already won, like humanity was already defeated. Lisa smiled grimly as she walked to her ship. Let them be confident. Let them think humans were weak and helpless. Let them believe their own propaganda about human ships being slow and human weapons being primitive. They would learn the truth soon enough, and when they did, the galaxy would never be the same. Fleet Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the largest war fleet in galactic history assemble before him. 3,000 ships from dozens of different worlds hung in space like deadly jewels. Each vessel represented centuries of alien military development. Each crew had trained for years in the art of space warfare. Each weapon system could destroy entire human cities with a single shot. The Admiral was an Altarian, a race that had conquered 12 different species over the past 500 years. His scaled skin was deep green with gold markings that showed his military rank. His yellow eyes could see across a much wider spectrum than human vision. When he looked at the assembled fleet, he saw power that could reshape the galaxy. "Status report," he commanded. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never lost a battle. "All ships report ready for combat operations," his aide replied. She was a young Altarian officer with bright silver scales. "The Zephyrian heavy cruisers have completed weapons calibration. The crystalline dreadnoughts have charged their main cannons. The Veltar strike fighters are loaded with plasma torpedoes." Kethvar nodded with satisfaction. Each alien species brought their best military technology to this war. The Zephyrians contributed their famous energy shields that could stop almost any attack. The crystalline beings offered weapons that fired concentrated light beams. The Veltar provided fighters that could move faster than any human ship. The tactical display showed human territory as a small cluster of red dots surrounded by the vast green expanse of Council space. 47 civilizations against one young species that had barely learned to travel between stars. The mathematics were simple. The outcome was certain. "Show me the intelligence files on human military capabilities," Kethvar ordered. The holographic display changed to show images of human ships captured by Council spy drones. The vessels looked crude and primitive compared to alien designs. Their hulls were thick and blocky instead of sleek and elegant. Their weapons appeared to be simple projectile launchers instead of advanced energy systems. "Human ships are slow and heavily armored," the intelligence officer reported. "They rely on kinetic weapons that fire solid projectiles instead of energy beams. Their maximum speed is roughly 60% of our slowest vessels. Their shields are basic magnetic fields that can deflect small debris but offer little protection against military-grade weapons." Another officer added more details. "Human colonies are lightly defended. Most have only a few patrol boats for protection against pirates. Their total military consists of fewer than 800 combat vessels. The majority are escorts and corvettes suitable only for police work." Kethvar studied the data with growing confidence. The humans had expanded rapidly across dozens of star systems, but they had spread their forces thin. Each colony had to be defended separately. Each fleet had to cover multiple worlds. When the Council attacked, the humans would not be able to concentrate their strength. "What about their tactics?" he asked. "Predictable," came the reply. "Humans prefer direct confrontation to subtle maneuvering. They attack in straight lines and retreat when outgunned. Their captains lack imagination, and their crews lack proper military discipline. Most of their officers are former civilian pilots with minimal combat training." The Admiral's aide brought up a star map showing human defensive positions. 3 main fleet concentrations guarded the approaches to human space. Alpha Centauri held their largest force with nearly 200 ships. Wolf 359 had about 150 vessels. Tau Ceti was defended by roughly 100 ships. "Their strategy is obvious," Kethvar observed. "They hope to force us into costly frontal assaults on fortified positions. But they lack the numbers to make such a strategy work. We can simply bypass their strong points and attack their colonies directly." The other senior officers nodded in agreement. Several alien species had used similar tactics against primitive opponents in the past. The key was to avoid the enemy's strengths and attack their weaknesses. Human colonies depended on supply ships from other worlds. Cut those supply lines, and the colonies would surrender without a fight. But Kethvar was a thorough commander. He had not won dozens of battles by taking unnecessary risks. Even against inferior opponents, careful planning was essential. "We will test their defenses before committing our main forces," he decided. "I will take 600 ships and probe the Wolf 359 system. If human resistance is as weak as predicted, we will proceed with the full offensive. If they prove more dangerous than expected, we will adjust our tactics accordingly." The officers looked surprised by this cautious approach. 600 ships seemed excessive for testing human defenses, but they did not question their commander's judgment. Kethvar had never led them into defeat. Preparations for the advance began immediately. The fastest ships from each species joined the probe force, cruisers and destroyers that could strike quickly and retreat if necessary, fighter squadrons that could scout human positions and report back to the main fleet, support vessels loaded, with supplies for an extended campaign. While the Council fleet organized, human forces were making their own preparations. Admiral Lucy Carter reviewed tactical reports from her headquarters on Mars. Unlike the aliens, she showed no signs of confidence or satisfaction. Her weathered face reflected years of fighting in the harsh environments of space. "The aliens think, they know what we can do," she told her senior officers during a secure video conference. "They have watched our cargo ships and survey vessels. They have seen our patrol boats chasing pirates through the outer systems. They think that is all we have." Captain Roy Martinez nodded from his ship in the Wolf 359 system. His vessel, the UES Vengeance, was one of the ships that alien spies had never detected. It hung in the shadow of a large asteroid, its hull coated with materials that absorbed sensor beams instead of reflecting them. "The probe will come to Wolf 359 first," he said. "My scouts report a large alien force assembling at Proxima. 600 ships, maybe more. They expect an easy victory." Admiral Carter smiled without humor. "Then we will give them a surprise they will never forget. Are all ships in position?" "Yes, ma'am," replied Captain Nina Rodriguez from her position, near the system's outer edge. "Strike Group Alpha is ready. Strike Group Beta reports green status. All stealth platforms are active and waiting. The alien intelligence files showed human ships as slow and crude. But the vessels waiting in Wolf 359 bore no resemblance to those outdated reports. They were the products of secret shipyards that had worked for decades to prepare for exactly this moment. Their hulls incorporated technology that the aliens had never seen. Their weapon systems operated on principles that Council scientists would not understand for generations. Most importantly, they carried crews who had spent their entire careers preparing to fight a war like this. Every human captain had studied alien tactics and weaknesses. Every gunner knew exactly where to aim for maximum damage. Every pilot had practiced maneuvers that would seem impossible to alien observers. Admiral Carter looked at the tactical display showing the approaching alien force. 600 ships against roughly 150 human vessels. The aliens probably thought those odds guaranteed victory. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," she broadcast on the secure command channel. "The enemy is coming. They think we are weak. They think we are primitive. They think we will run when they show their strength. Let us teach them what humans do when our backs are against the wall." The replies came from across the system. Captains and crews who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Men and women who would rather die than let alien invaders destroy their homes and families. Admiral Kethvar's probe force completed its preparations and began the jump to Wolf 359. The alien commanders were confident and eager for battle. They expected to crush human resistance in a few hours and then advance toward Earth itself. The trap was set. The stage was ready. The first real battle between humanity and the galaxy was about to begin. The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace in a formation that had intimidated enemies across the galaxy for centuries. 600 warships arranged in a perfect attack pattern, with heavy cruisers at the center and fast destroyers protecting the flanks. Admiral Kethvar stood on his bridge and watched the tactical display populate with red dots representing human defensive positions. "Scan results coming in now, Admiral," his sensor officer reported. "Human fleet strength appears, consistent with intelligence estimates. Approximately 150 vessels concentrated around the inner planets. No sign of reinforcements from other systems." Kethvar nodded with satisfaction. The humans had positioned their ships exactly where the tactical computers predicted. They were trying to protect their colonies by forming a defensive shell around the inhabited worlds. It was a predictable strategy that left them vulnerable to concentrated attack. "Begin the assault," he commanded. "All ships, advance to engagement. Range, target the largest human vessels first. We will break their defensive line with overwhelming firepower." The alien fleet moved forward like a tide of death. Zephyrian cruisers charged their main weapons. Crystalline dreadnoughts prepared to fire their light cannons. Veltar fighters launched from their carriers and streaked toward human positions. But something was wrong. The human ships were not retreating as expected. Instead of falling back to secondary positions, they were actually moving forward to meet the alien attack. Even worse, they were moving fast. Much faster than the intelligence reports indicated was possible. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out with concern in his voice, "the human vessels are not matching our speed calculations. They appear to be accelerating beyond their listed specifications." Kethvar frowned and looked more closely at the tactical display. The human ships did indeed seem to be moving faster than they should. But that was not the most disturbing change. The vessels themselves looked different from the intelligence photos. These ships were sleeker and more streamlined. Their hulls gleamed with unfamiliar materials. Their weapon ports bristled with systems that did not appear in any Council database. "Are we certain these are human ships?" he asked. Before anyone could answer, the first human vessel opened fire. Captain Roy Martinez watched the alien fleet approach from the bridge of the UES Vengeance. His ship had remained hidden until the last possible moment, concealed behind a cloud of metallic chaff that confused enemy sensors. Now it was time to introduce the aliens to humanity's real military capability. "All weapons, target the lead Altarian cruiser," he ordered. "Fire when ready." The Vengeance's main gun was a magnetic accelerator cannon that used powerful electromagnetic fields to launch projectiles at tremendous speeds. The weapon had been designed specifically to penetrate alien shield technology. When it fired, the tungsten dart it launched was moving at 15% of light speed. The projectile hit the Altarian cruiser's forward shield and punched through it like it was made of tissue paper. The kinetic energy released by the impact vaporized the entire front section of the enemy ship. Secondary explosions rippled through the vessel as its ammunition stores detonated. Admiral Kethvar watched in shock as his lead cruiser simply disappeared in a ball of expanding plasma. The tactical computers calculated the energy of the impact and returned readings that seemed impossible. No projectile weapon should be able to generate that much destructive force. "Return fire," he ordered. "All ships, concentrate on that human vessel." A dozen alien warships turned their weapons toward the Vengeance. Energy beams and plasma bolts converged on the human ship from multiple directions. But instead of destroying their target, the alien weapons seemed to have no effect at all. The energy blasts struck some kind of barrier around the human vessel and were deflected harmlessly into space. Captain Martinez smiled grimly as he watched the alien weapons bounce off his ship's kinetic shields. The barrier system used magnetic fields to deflect incoming projectiles and redirect energy beams. It was not perfect protection, but it was far superior to anything the aliens expected humans to possess. "Their weapons are not penetrating our defenses," his tactical officer reported. "Shield efficiency is holding at 96%. "Excellent," Martinez replied. "Continue firing. Show them what human engineering can accomplish." The Vengeance fired again, and another alien cruiser vanished in a burst of released energy. Then more human ships began to emerge from their hiding places throughout the system. Each one opened fire with weapons that defied alien understanding of human technology. Admiral Carter's flagship, the UES Defiance, led a squadron of heavy cruisers in a flanking attack against the alien formation's left wing. Her magnetic accelerator cannons fired in sequence, each shot destroying or crippling an enemy vessel. The aliens tried to respond, but their energy weapons seemed almost useless against human defensive systems. Captain Nina Rodriguez brought her destroyer squadron in from the opposite direction. Her ships were smaller and faster than the human cruisers, but they carried the same devastating weapons. Her opening salvo destroyed 3 Veltar fighters and badly damaged a crystalline dreadnought. The alien fleet, which had approached with such confidence minutes earlier, suddenly found itself under attack from multiple directions by ships that should not have existed. The human vessels moved faster than predicted, hit harder than expected, and seemed almost immune to return fire. Admiral Kethvar tried to make sense of what he was seeing. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These ships do not match any intelligence. Reports. Where did the humans get this technology?" His aide looked just as confused. "Admiral, perhaps our intelligence was wrong. Perhaps these are not typical human vessels. Maybe these are experimental prototypes or ships acquired from another species." But Kethvar knew that was not the answer. No other species in the galaxy had weapons or defenses like what he was witnessing. These were purely human innovations, technologies that his people had never encountered before. The battle continued to turn against the alien forces. Human ships that had seemed small and insignificant on the tactical display were systematically destroying vessels that had dominated entire star systems. The magnetic accelerator cannons punched through alien shields and armor like they were made of cardboard. The kinetic barriers deflected energy weapons that should have been able to vaporize entire cities. But the most disturbing aspect of the fight was not the technology. It was the way the humans used it. Their tactics were unlike anything in Council military doctrine. Instead of forming orderly battle lines, human ships attacked from unexpected angles. Instead of concentrating their fire on single targets, they used coordinated strikes to maximize damage across the alien formation. Instead of retreating when damaged, they pressed their attacks even harder. Captain Martinez demonstrated this aggressive spirit when his ship took a direct hit from a Zephyrian heavy cruiser. The impact overloaded one of his shield generators and caused significant damage to his port weapons array. Instead of withdrawing for repairs, he ordered his ship to ram the enemy vessel. The Vengeance's reinforced hull struck the alien cruiser at full combat speed. The impact crushed the enemy ship's bridge and caused massive structural damage throughout its length. Both vessels were badly damaged by the collision, but the human ship was still capable of fighting while the alien cruiser was drifting helplessly. "This is insane," Admiral Kethvar muttered as he watched the human ship continue firing, even while conducting ramming attacks. "They fight like they have nothing to lose." His tactical officer provided an update that made the situation even worse. "Admiral, we have lost over 200 ships. Human casualties appear to be minimal. At this rate, they will destroy our entire force within the next hour." Kethvar looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were experienced warriors who had fought in dozens of battles, but he could see fear in their eyes now. Fear of an enemy that fought unlike anything they had ever encountered. "Signal the fleet," he ordered reluctantly. "All ships, withdraw to minimum safe distance. We need to regroup and reassess the situation." The surviving alien vessels began to pull back from the human defensive positions. They had expected an easy victory against primitive opponents. Instead, they had been beaten by ships and tactics that defied everything they thought they knew about warfare. As his fleet retreated, Admiral Kethvar composed an urgent message to the Galactic Council. The intelligence about human military capabilities had been completely wrong. These were not the crude vessels and inexperienced crews that the spy reports described. Humanity possessed technology and fighting spirit that posed a real threat to alien dominance of the galaxy. The message he sent was simple but alarming. "The humans are not what we expected. Send everything." The news from Wolf 359 spread through the Galactic Council like a disease. Admiral Kethvar's defeat had been complete and humiliating. Over 400 alien ships destroyed or disabled by a human force less than half their size. The survivors, who made it back to Council space, brought reports that seemed impossible to believe. High Chancellor Zefthar stood before the emergency session of the full council, his forearms trembling with rage. The compound eyes that had glowed with satisfaction during the war declaration now burned with fury and disbelief. "The humans have made fools of us all," he declared to the assembled delegates. "They pretended to be weak while building weapons we did not know existed. They acted like children while preparing for war like seasoned killers. This deception cannot be allowed to succeed." The crystal being that served as the crystalline collective's representative flashed with angry red. "Light, our intelligence services failed completely. The ships that attacked our forces bore no resemblance to the crude vessels in our databases. How did we miss such a massive military buildup?" An insectoid delegate from the Veltar swarm clicked its mandibles in frustration. "Our fighters were destroyed by weapons that should not be possible. Human projectile systems that fire at speeds approaching light itself. Defensive barriers that deflect our most powerful energy beams. This technology is beyond what a young..." species should possess. Zepthar raised all four arms for silence. The chamber fell quiet except for the hum of life support systems and the occasional alien sound of distress. "It no longer matters how we were deceived," the Chancellor said. "What matters now is that we respond with overwhelming force. The humans have revealed their true capabilities. Now we must show them ours." Orders went out across Council space. Within hours, every military vessel that could still fight was recalled to active service. Reserve fleets that had been mothballed for decades were brought back to operational status. Even civilian ships were pressed into service as troop transports and supply vessels. The armada that assembled dwarfed anything previously seen in galactic history. 10,000 warships from 47 different civilizations converged on the staging areas near human territory. Each species contributed its most powerful vessels and most experienced crews. The combined firepower could have reduced entire worlds to ash. Zepthar himself assumed command of the massive fleet. He moved his headquarters to the Zephyrian super-dreadnought Cosmic Wrath, a vessel so large it had its own shipyards and manufacturing facilities. From its bridge, he could coordinate the movements of thousands of ships across dozens of star systems. "This time there will be no mistakes," he announced to his senior staff. "We will not underestimate human capabilities again. We will not show mercy or accept surrender. Every human world will be bombarded until nothing remains but cooling rock. Every human ship will be hunted down and destroyed. The species that dared to humiliate the Galactic Council will be erased from existence." The invasion plan divided the alien fleet into three massive attack groups. The first would strike directly at Earth, the human homeworld and center of their resistance. The second would assault Mars and the industrial colonies of the inner system. The third would sweep through the outer settlements, destroying anything that could support continued human resistance. But the aliens were not the only ones preparing for the coming battle. Across human space, colonies that had seemed helpless were revealing their own hidden defenses. Mining operations that appeared to be simple industrial sites opened to reveal underground weapon factories. Cargo ships that had carried supplies. Between worlds suddenly sprouted missile launchers and energy cannons. Admiral Lucy Carter established her new headquarters on Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. The rocky body had been hollowed out over decades to create a fortress that could coordinate the defense of the entire solar system. From her command center deep in the asteroid's core, she watched the alien armada approach. "Status report from all sectors," she ordered. Captain Steve Adams, now commanding the stealth squadron based in the outer system, provided the first update. "Deep space reconnaissance confirms 10,000 alien vessels approaching from multiple vectors. The lead elements will reach Neptune's orbit in 18 hours. Main force arrival estimated at 36 hours from now." Captain Nina Rodriguez reported from the Mars Defense Fleet. "Industrial evacuation is complete. All civilian populations have been moved to hardened shelters. Military production facilities are operating at maximum capacity. We have enough ammunition and supplies for extended combat operations." Captain Roy Martinez checked in from his new position near Earth. "Home fleet is at full readiness. All defensive platforms are online. The Luna installations are powered, up and ready to fire. If they want to take Earth, they will have to go through everything we can throw at them." Admiral Carter nodded as she reviewed the tactical situation. The human fleet had grown since Wolf 359, but they were still outnumbered, more than 10 to 1. The aliens had learned from their previous defeat and would not make the same mistakes again. This time they would bring enough firepower to overwhelm any defense. But humanity had advantages that the aliens still did not understand. Every human ship was crewed by volunteers who were fighting for their homes and families. Every captain had studied alien tactics and weaknesses for years. Every weapon system had been designed specifically to exploit gaps in Council technology. Most importantly, the humans were fighting in their own territory. They knew every asteroid and space station. They had prepared defensive positions throughout the system. They could use the environment itself as a weapon against the invaders. The first alien attacks began at the edge of the solar system. Probe forces struck at the outer colonies, expecting to find lightly defended mining stations and research facilities. Instead, they encountered fortified positions that had been prepared for decades. The battle for the Kuiper Belt Research Station demonstrated humanity's new approach to defensive warfare. When 100 alien ships approached the facility, they found what appeared to be a typical human outpost with minimal defenses. But as they closed in for the kill, the entire asteroid field around the station came alive with hidden weapons. Captain Lisa Wong commanded the defense from her position deep inside the research station. Her ships were badly outnumbered, but they did not fight alone. Automated defense platforms that had been disguised as mining equipment opened fire with magnetic accelerator cannons. Missile launchers hidden in hollowed-out asteroids launched volleys of guided warheads. Even the research station itself revealed weapon ports that had been concealed behind false hull plating. The alien probe force found itself caught in a crossfire from dozens of different positions. Their sensors could not distinguish between real asteroids and camouflaged weapon platforms. Their targeting systems were confused by decoy signals and electronic countermeasures. By the time they realized the trap, half their ships had already been destroyed. Similar battles erupted throughout the outer system. Every human facility that the aliens attacked turned out to be stronger than expected. Every easy target became a deadly trap. The Council forces found themselves taking heavy casualties even before they reached the main human defensive positions. High Chancellor Zefthar monitored these preliminary skirmishes from his command ship with growing frustration. The humans were making every meter of space cost alien lives. Their defensive strategy was unlike anything in Council military doctrine. Instead of concentrating their forces at key points, they had scattered weapons throughout their territory. Every approach route was covered by multiple overlapping fields of fire. "Status report," he demanded from his intelligence staff. "Human resistance is stronger than anticipated," came the reluctant reply. "They have converted civilian facilities into military strong points. Their defensive coverage extends much further than our models predicted. Estimated casualties for the full assault have been revised upward significantly." Zefthar's mandibles clicked with anger. Once again, the humans had surprised them with capabilities that should not exist, but this time he would not be deterred by higher-than-expected losses. The alien fleet had enough ships to absorb heavy casualties and still achieve victory. "Continue the advance," he ordered. "All probe forces will maintain their attacks to pin down human defenders. Main fleet elements will proceed directly to primary targets. We will end this war through sheer weight of numbers." The massive alien armada resumed its advance toward the inner solar system. Earth and Mars lay ahead, defended by the strongest human forces. The final battle for the fate of humanity was about to begin. From her command center on Ceres, Admiral Carter watched the alien fleet approach. The odds against her forces were overwhelming. The enemy had more ships, more firepower, and more experience. But she had one advantage that no alien commander could match. She was fighting for the survival of her species. And humans had never been more dangerous than when their backs were against the wall. The alien fleet reached the inner solar system with the confidence of certain victory. 10,000 warships spread across space in a formation designed to crush any possible resistance. High Chancellor Zefthar stood on his bridge and watched Earth grow larger on the main screen. The blue and white world that had spawned humanity would soon be nothing but a lifeless rock. "All ships report ready for final assault," his aide announced. "Target assignments have been distributed. Bombardment will commence on your command." Zefthar allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The humans had fought better than expected, but numbers always told in the end. No species could stand against the combined might of 47 civilizations. The war that had begun with humanity's arrogant defiance would end with their complete extinction. "Begin planetary bombardment," he commanded. "Reduce all human worlds to ash." The alien fleet opened fire with weapons that could crack continents and boil oceans. Energy beams that could melt mountains converged on Earth from dozens of different directions. Plasma torpedoes capable of vaporizing entire cities streaked toward the planet's surface. The combined firepower was enough to sterilize 100 worlds. But the devastating barrage never reached its target. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, Admiral Ben Parker watched his tactical displays from the most secret military installation humanity had ever built. The Luna defense grid had been under construction for over a century, hidden from alien observation by careful engineering and patient planning. Now, as enemy fire approached Earth, it was time to reveal humanity's ultimate weapon. All grid stations. "Report ready," his weapons officer announced. "Fusion reactors are at maximum output. Magnetic field generators are charged and locked on target." Parker nodded grimly. The Luna defense grid was humanity's greatest engineering achievement and their most desperate gamble. If it worked, Earth might survive the alien assault. If it failed, the human species would be extinct within hours. "Fire," he ordered. The moon itself became a weapon. Magnetic accelerator cannons built into Luna's very structure opened fire with projectiles launched at 20% of light speed. The grid's power came from fusion reactors buried deep in the lunar core, providing energy levels that dwarfed anything previously imagined. When the system fired, it unleashed the kinetic energy of falling stars. The alien bombardment simply vanished. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes were intercepted by tungsten projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The collisions released more energy than nuclear explosions, creating brief new stars in the space between Earth and the attacking fleet. Secondary impacts struck alien ships that had been positioned too close to their own weapons fire. High Chancellor Zefthar watched in disbelief as his super dreadnought's main cannon was destroyed by a projectile too small to see on sensors. The impact vaporized the entire forward section of his ship and sent shock waves through the hull that cracked bulkheads throughout the vessel. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Where are these attacks coming from?" His sensor officer provided an answer that seemed impossible. "Admiral, the projectiles are being fired from Luna itself. The entire moon appears to have been converted into some kind of weapon system." The Luna defense grid continued firing, its magnetic cannons rotating with the moon's spin to bring fresh weapons to bear on different sections of the alien fleet. Each shot destroyed or disabled multiple enemy vessels. The aliens found themselves under attack from a fortress they could not even see, let alone effectively target. But Luna was not humanity's only surprise. As the alien fleet recoiled from the devastating lunar bombardment, Earth's real defenses revealed themselves. Orbital platforms that had masqueraded as civilian space stations suddenly bristled with weapon systems. The planet's surface opened to reveal missile silos and energy cannon installations hidden beneath fake cities and forests. Captain Steve Adams led his stealth squadron out of hiding in the asteroid belt. His ships had waited in perfect silence. For this moment, their hulls coated with materials that absorbed sensor waves instead of reflecting them. Now they struck at the alien fleet's command vessels with surgical precision. The UES Ghost materialized behind a crystalline dreadnought and fired its full spread of torpedoes into the enemy ship's power core. The detonation sent cascading failures throughout the alien vessel's systems. Before the crew could respond, the Ghost vanished back into sensor invisibility. Similar attacks erupted throughout the alien formation. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck devastating blows, then disappeared, again before the enemy could retaliate. The aliens found themselves fighting shadows that could strike from any direction at any time. Captain Nena Rodriguez demonstrated humanity's gift for improvisation when her destroyer squadron ran low on conventional ammunition. Instead of retreating to resupply, she ordered her ships to use their magnetic grapples in a new way. Her pilots attached explosive charges to alien hulls before ejecting from their craft, turning their own fighters into guided missiles. The tactic, which human crews, immediately dubbed mag bombing, spread through the fleet within minutes. Damaged human ships became weapons themselves, their crews steering them into enemy formations before abandoning ship. The psychological impact on alien crews was devastating. They had never faced an enemy willing to sacrifice their own vessels for tactical advantage. President Jake Morrison addressed the galaxy from the White House bunker as the battle raged around Earth. His words were broadcast on every frequency, reaching not just human colonies but alien worlds throughout Council space. For too long, you have seen us as primitives to be conquered or eliminated, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos outside. You thought you knew what humanity was capable of. Today, you learn that we are more than you ever imagined. The alien fleet, which had approached with such confidence, found itself being systematically destroyed by weapons and tactics they had never encountered. Human technology that appeared primitive from the outside proved devastatingly effective in actual combat. Human crews that seemed undisciplined and inexperienced fought with coordination and skill that amazed even their enemies. But the most disturbing aspect for the alien commanders was not the technology or tactics. It was the attitude of the human crews. They fought like they had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Damaged ships pressed their attacks instead of retreating. Outnumbered squadrons charged into superior enemy forces without hesitation. Individual pilots rammed alien cruisers with their fighters when they ran out of other options. High Chancellor Zefthar, his flagship badly damaged and his fleet in full retreat, finally understood what his forces were facing. These were not the crude barbarians that Council propaganda had described. These were the survivors of a world that had tried to kill them for millions of years. These were the children of ice ages and plagues and disasters that would have destroyed weaker species. These were beings who had looked at an empty universe and decided to fill it with life. "Signal all ships," he ordered with defeat heavy in his voice. "General retreat to Council space. We have lost this war." The Battle of Sol lasted 6 days. When it ended, the once mighty Galactic Council fleet was scattered wreckage drifting through space. Those alien ships that could still move fled toward their home systems, carrying news of humanity's impossible victory. Admiral Lucy Carter stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the last alien vessels disappear into hyperspace. Around her, the solar system was littered with the debris of the greatest space battle in galactic history. Human losses had been significant, but they had achieved something that seemed impossible just days earlier. They had defeated the combined military might of 47 alien civilizations. "Status report from all sectors," she ordered. The reports came in from across the system. Earth was secure, its population safe in their shelters. Mars had suffered some damage but remained fully operational. The outer colonies had held their positions despite overwhelming odds. Most importantly, the human fleet, though battered, remained an effective fighting force. But Carter knew the war was not over. The Galactic Council would not accept this defeat without consequences. Some alien species would seek revenge. Others would try to build new alliances against humanity. A few might even consider using weapons that could destroy entire star systems. However, humanity had proven something important to the galaxy. They were not the weak primitives that Council propaganda had portrayed. They were a force to be reckoned with, a species that would fight for their freedom no matter what the odds. President Morrison's final words to the galaxy carried a message that would reshape interstellar politics for generations to come. "We did not seek this war, but we have finished it. To those who wish to live in peace with humanity, you will find us generous, friends and faithful allies. To those who still dream of conquest, remember what you have seen here today. Humanity stands unshaken, and we will never bow to tyrants. The age of human expansion was about to begin, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same.